years if you're applying to college. So, start off with myself. Again, I'm Matt. I'm affiliated with CYC through the volleyball program, playing 9-man. It's one of my favorite things to do now outside of work. Right now, I'm a second-year analyst at Goldman Sachs in New York City. I graduated cum laude from the College of William & Mary in 2017, and I attended high school at St. Albans High School in Washington, D.C., where I spent a lot of my time outside of classes playing sports, mainly football. It's kind of my nickname, so if you hear that, that's actually me. And on volleyball, you'll see me as the most ridiculous, outrageous guy on the court celebrating for pointlessly anything, so that's me. Fun fact about me, sorry, thank you. I made it to the front page of the Washington Post in 2012 with LeBron James. I was in the background, he was dunking. Yep.
Hello everyone, my name is Alina. I'm also a CYC volleyball player. I went to Richard Montgomery for my high school, went to University of Maryland College Park for undergrad, and I'm currently in my first year of dental school at University of Baltimore. I play volleyball and I have done Zumba, which is my fun fact. I'm a Zumba instructor at College Park and hopefully Baltimore in the future.
My name is Anthony. I also involved in CYC through volleyball. Right now, I'm doing my undergrad at Georgia Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, studying my major as physical education. And I went to high school at Wheaton High School, where I also played volleyball. And a fun fact about me is that I did cheerleading for like 7 years.
I'm Jasmine. I graduated in May from Rutgers University, and I'm also part of the Women's College, Doug Lewis College. Currently, I'm working in DC on the Congressional Gold Medal Act. And a fun fact about myself, I've been involved with the court system since I was 16.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to jump into the first section of this to talk about your academic career in high school. So we'll start with Alina. Selecting your class schedule. How'd you decide what classes to take? Describe choosing to take difficult classes that you think would impress college admission officers, but also wanting to pick classes where you could perform well and get a high GPA. And on top of all that, pick classes that you're interested in. How did you go about that?
Okay, so for me, my older brother was also in the health field in the medicine. And so I actually just kind of followed what he did, and I took neurobiology and physiology, which is just a biology major. For me, I regretted not taking classes that I was actually interested in. I thought in order to get into dental school, I only had to take biology classes. I only had to follow what the dental school requirements were. But in actuality, I could have majored in psychology, which is actually something I was really interested in. I do regret not majoring or minoring in that major. You can actually major in something that's not biology and still get into the medical field, so just keep that in mind for those who are interested. In terms of taking classes, Alicia said, basketball came easy to her. It wasn't hard work because she fell in love with it. She was really interested in it, and I agree with that. For taking classes that you're really interested in, it's not hard for you to get that A. It's not hard for you to study it because you are motivated to study. You're motivated to learn more about that field. So definitely take classes that interest you. You can use that for gen eds as well. It doesn't have to be your major, but just keep that in mind. Don't shy away from certain classes just because you think certain schools or certain jobs don't want you to take that. The most important piece of information in terms of studying during college is be honest with yourself and figure out how you study best. For me, I am all three types of learner. I'm a visual learner, auditory, kinesthetic. I needed to type my notes on the computer, print them, rewrite them separately while looking at a PowerPoint, testing myself out loud. And so for me, it took a longer time to study. I needed to study earlier than maybe some of my classmates that could just go through a PowerPoint and suddenly memorize all the information. And for me, I thought staying up late and studying was the most efficient way, but it wasn't. And fun story, in freshman year of College Park, I stayed up till I think 5 or 6 a.m. for a biology exam the next day. That was at 8 a.m. and I ended up waking up late for the exam, for one, and then missing an entire exam the second time. And so, just for you, you just have to be honest with yourself, figure out how much time you actually need to study. Pulling all-nighters is not the is not the best solution. I used to try to pull that in freshman year, and what happens is your brain just kind of has a block. You think you're awake and you think you know the information, but when it comes down to the test, it's kind of like a little blank spot. And so that's my, my advice for you.
And just small notes I can add to that as well. I think one of my biggest mistakes in high school was I really wanted to challenge myself by taking the highest level math courses I could, because I've always been a math guy. I minored it in college as well. So I was always shooting to take the hardest math classes. Even though one of my teachers recommended that might be too hard for your schedule, I just thought I'd set myself up to try and book the best for colleges. I ended up doing really horribly in that class, and it wasn't really worth the hit that took to my GPA, right? So at the end of the day, when you're not sure whether to sign up for a class or not, you can always fall back on a great GPA. That'll never hurt you. Even if the classes aren't like top notch the rest of your school, a good GPA will always help you in the college admission process. Trying to challenge yourself and not succeeding in that is not the best way you want to advertise yourself. So if you're ever in question, you can always talk to your teacher who's instructing you and can advise you best based on how well they know you and the way you learn, if the next level, what next level is appropriate for you. So, 2 cents there. Okay, thank you, Alina. So for standardized tests, that's the other side of the coin when you think about academics and kind of that preparation in high school. So Jasmine, for standardized tests, describe basically how you prepare for SATs, APs, SAT2s, all of the above, and what would you do differently?
So I self-studied for the SAT, but looking back, I would probably take a class for it, because in the end, getting a higher SAT score will open up other opportunities for colleges and universities. So I would probably do that differently. For AP classes, I think I took 3 or 4 AP classes junior and senior year each time, and it was a lot, and I thought that the class itself would prepare me for the exam, so I didn't do much outside studying, but if I could go back, I would do more self-studying for AP exams.
Again, I'm gonna do this throughout, but sometimes not when I don't like something to say. For standardized tests for myself, my older sister was always kind of like my second mom, and she forced me to always get out of the curve and learn from her mistakes. So she forced me to take my first full SAT exam, prep one, not official, when I was in end of my 8th grade, and I did horribly, like so bad. I think the score back then was out of 2,400. I got in like the 1400s, and she was like, "Wow, you're not gonna get into school if you keep that up." So that really scared me, and I was trying to improve, but like it was to no avail. So I kind of made it a goal to myself where starting like my sophomore year during my free periods at school, before I got home and played video games, I would do at least one reading or writing section every day. It only takes 15 or 20 minutes, but I did it once a day to the point where I got very, very comfortable with it, and I just understood like the keys to it. And that's just 15 minutes a day, right? That's like watching an episode on TV on like Netflix, right? It's just really not a lot of time at all. So doing that every day taught me, by the time I actually took the exam day, I just was not intimidated by all of that section. I knew exactly what to expect, and thankfully my score was up to par where I could get into college. So yeah, standardized tests are stressful, and the hardest part is you only really get one shot at it. Retaking it, besides SAT, isn't generally like always a convenient option. So my best advice there, yeah, get ahead of the curve and practice daily. Don't cram in at the end, because standardized tests, that doesn't really work out too well. Cool, so if you have any more, if you're in one of our stories, we'll have time for questions at the end. Moving along to extracurriculars, that's obviously a really important part of your high school or your college applications, and sort of showing who you are. So we'll move to Anthony now. How did you decide to get involved with the clubs and sports that you did, and what did you choose to devote the most time to, and why?
So I know in high school they have a lot of clubs, but even in college they have a lot more than what you're used to. In high school I did a number of clubs such as environmental club, the volleyball club, and drama club. For high school I just did what interested me to spread your wings. There's a lot of options out there that you can choose, and sometimes if you don't like it, you don't have to stick to it. It's not a full commitment. By the time I got into college, I narrowed it down to just sports clubs because that's what I was passionate about. So I joined the volleyball club and Quidditch club when I was in college. Yeah. What do you want to devote your most time to? What makes you happy, really? What keeps you like motivated to like go back to the practices or like the meetings and stuff like that? Whatever makes you the most comfortable in your true self.
Great. In terms of involvement, it's important to be involved in a lot of things, but at the end of the day, sometimes when you're standing amongst a crowd of a million people, it doesn't really matter unless you have a lot of involvement or a lot of leadership. So, Jasmine, what a great leader we have up here on stage. Tell us about the best ways to rise in your leadership roles and the clubs you're involved in, or even starting a club on your own. Sort of what goes into that.
Let's see. So I did start an environmental coalition on campus. It was fun, but it's hard to maintain membership. So if you're planning on starting a club, you should think about how long-term goals and how you're gonna maintain active membership. What I found was helpful was when I joined student government, they had an environmental committee, and so through that, I was able to do more raise more environmental awareness on campus, and we ended up writing a report at the end of the year about sustainability on campus. So we were able to make recommendations to the president of the university and make impacts that way. So if you do want to rise in leadership, you should join clubs that you're interested in and find positions that you want to have and talk to the person who's currently in that position. So next semester or next year, you can also apply for it. And don't be afraid to apply for things that you think you're not qualified for, because usually no one's really that qualified and everyone's in the same boat. So you have a chance.
Great, thank you. So, it's good to get involved, it's good to rise to the top. At the same time, you still have school, and a lot of personal matters at home or with your friends that you want to all balance. I think Alina is one of the busiest people I know, and she's involved with a lot of things. So she's going to talk to us just about her thought process behind balancing academics, everything else she does on the side.
For me, I would say definitely socialize, get involved in things. It doesn't have to be every single club on campus, but if you find the 2 or 3 clubs and groups that you are really passionate about and you want to devote your time to, I'd say go for it. Don't look too much into the future of, oh, this isn't going to help me in my future, this isn't going to help me in my career. Choose things that you are actually going to devote time to and that you are passionate about, because in the end, it will eventually help you. For Zumba, that has nothing to do with the field of dentistry. I just fell in love with it and I became an instructor. And in that way, I actually learned leadership skills. You know, I'm leading a group of people in a group fitness class, but I learned that. I also learned, you know, just working with other people in like a higher position and everything. So definitely socialize, get out there, get involved. You end up learning a lot of crucial life skills in those clubs. Now, any regrets in socializing? My sister went to my college, and so I felt sometimes that I needed to choose family over work, and in a way that actually helped me. Because yes, GPA is important, but your mental health and your mental wellness is just as important. Someone close to me actually had that problem where she was always so focused on comparing herself to those around her, saying, you know, my grades aren't as high. And so she tried to focus too much on school and she didn't get involved in any other activities. And in the end, she wasn't motivated to even do any work in her, you know, in her major. And that hurt her in the end. And so we encourage her to get out there, go to the gym, get involved in, you know, a sorority if you need to find that group of people. And after she did that, you know, her motivation was back. And so, yeah, my biggest advice is just to really get involved, find that group of people that are going to help you in life, because, you know, in the end, it's not just about your GPA.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with everything I just heard. Some of the drawback for myself, I do my best, I always do my best, even now, when I'm not even in school anymore, to always be really well-rounded, right? But at the same time, it's always good to like push your limits, you know, everything Alicia said in the previous talk, but at the same time, you do need to find that balance. And you can get to the point where if you're pushing yourself too hard, you're gonna start slacking both in your school grades and in your extracurriculars too, where you can't really commit to both and give a lot of time. So, in the day, you have to kind of ask yourself, like long-term, like if you're not even sure extracurriculars, what you even have a passion for yet, then maybe it makes more sense to always be able to fall back on a good GPA. You're probably gonna hear me say that a lot throughout this talk, but that was one of my biggest regrets, just especially in high school, was I was always prioritizing trying to be like a triple varsity athlete. And when it got to my senior year, my winter sport, I wasn't in love with it anymore, and I wanted to maintain kind of that triple varsity kind of like persona to add that to like kind of like back when I had with academics. And it took a lot of courage for me to go up to my coach and tell him that I wasn't going to play for him that season, just because I needed to focus a lot more time to finishing off my college application process strong. At the end of the day, I just wasn't loving it anymore. And I mean, he respected that, he was fine, he just knew I had to make life decisions. So just know that in a lot of the extracurriculars that you get involved with, it's just not about like, showing face all the time. You actually can make good connections there, and that's another network of people you'll have to support you and give you advice in a lot of ways. And if it ever becomes too much, just remember to prioritize what you actually need to get done at the time. And at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to get everything done, and you're not going to have the schedule you want. Well, that's just life, and you got so much time later to make up for it and get involved again in similar things. So cool. So we're going to dive into the last section before we open this to Q&A, and I think this is a bigger focal point where we can provide a lot of advice in. So this is the college selection and application process. Honestly, looking back at comparing college, like senior year of college, senior year of high school, I honestly was more stressed out my senior year of high school getting into college than I was as an adult or as a senior in college trying to get a job. And not everyone will agree with that, but for me personally, it was getting a job was a little more soothing because there wasn't like a hard deadline, like a one-time shot. I interviewed like 20 times my senior year until I finally got a job, and I always kind of knew if I didn't get this one, I'd be able to get another interview coming up next. And even if I graduated and I didn't have a job yet, I would still have all the time in the world to finally get one. There wasn't a rush. Whereas with applying to college, you have your early decision admission, and then like the regular decision process comes, right? And that's all you got basically. And if you try to apply off cycle, like that can be such a headache. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to go into like high school graduation thinking you want to transfer right away or have to go through that work. So for me, that was a much more stressful process, especially because after you hit submit on all your applications, you gotta wait like 3-4 months till they actually all come through, and that's just like the worst waiting period, right? So, yeah, we just want to give a lot of insight into this process and get into detail for sort of our stories. So, I guess each of us will just talk about how we decided to like apply where we did and what were the factors behind that. So, yeah, William & Mary for me, a lot of my family went there. My father went there, my sister went there, and my cousin went there. So it made a lot of sense. It was in-state for me, because my family's based in Fairfax, and I wanted to study business. It all lined up. But I've always been one, hence like why I live in New York right now, but still commute to CYC on the weekends for volleyball. I always love going to new places and getting new experiences. So I kind of want to shed away from my family in that way. But when it came down to the list of schools I actually got into, it was a big decision because William & Mary was an in-state college for my family, and that was obviously financially really important to be able to get in-state tuition. And plus, it's still a great school, and I've seen plenty of people thrive there, my family included. So it was a really hard decision, and I love just how green it was. Shameless plug, William & Mary, apply there, great school, great people. And it was just obviously really stressful because I put so much work into my high school career, and I wanted the top for myself. I wanted to like have the kind of the best opportunity myself laid out. And I honestly felt like William & Mary might not have been like worth all the work I put into it, but that's fine, because at the end of the day, when you go to college, they're all great schools, and when you go to college, you have to kind of press the reset button. Your high school accolades don't translate when you get into job interviews and all that kind of stuff. So you're gonna have to end up restarting anyways. And every school, you have an opportunity to make it to the top, like top firms now, where you're recruiting full time. At the end of the day, they look at who you are as a whole person in your college experience. Don't worry too much into the brand name. Just always be proud of yourself. Later.
It was also pretty easy to decide that College Park was where I wanted to go. My older two siblings went there. I knew I wanted to go to grad school after that, so tuition was a very big factor. Also, just knowing myself, I really like big campuses, and Maryland is one of the best, so that's a pretty easy decision for me.
So I applied to a couple of schools for early decision, and the one that I chose was George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. But it's not too far away from home in Maryland. It's only like a 45-minute drive without traffic. I had a lot of friends and family that grew up in Maryland though, and like they went to College Park, so that was like a big like decision on if I wanted to continue and just stay with them, or did I want to branch off on my own, find myself somewhere else. So I chose George Mason.
So originally I went to American University.
Is your mic on?
Yeah. So originally I went to American University in DC, and I loved it there, but since it was a private institution, it was like $60K, a year, and after a year and a half, I thought it wasn't worth it. So I transferred to Rutgers University, where I had in-state tuition, and I think it was worth that more.
Okay. So, applying to college. What's going on here? Okay. Applying to college is obviously a very time-consuming task. You have the Common App, but at the end of the day, each school essentially requires a supplemental essay, and that's a lot of time. And each application costs a good chunk of money. So, when you have a limited number of colleges to apply to, what did you prioritize to diversify your list? We're gonna all go down the list here. So, for myself, I always kind of cast a wide net because I kind of thought, just based on how I did in high school, that I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket. I just kind of thought, I want a lot of people to see my profile and go land it. So instead of doing an early decision, I chose 3 early action schools. I ended up not getting any of them right away, which made the regular decision process that much more stressful. So at the end of the day, you have to really talk to your parents a lot. It's not really good when you go through this process without their support, because at the end of the day, not only are they probably paying for your tuition, they're also going to be your biggest supporter for the rest of your life, and they know you the best. So you got to be able to talk to your parents and decide, do you want to stick geographically the East Coast, the DC area, or even do you want to branch out to the West Coast? So I would kind of want to make it an option to go to the West Coast for myself, so I applied to a couple California schools. But I knew at the end of the day I wanted to stay near home. So everything I kind of applied to fell anywhere between Boston, Chicago, and the general DC area. And that was the general guidelines I used to make my list. And my parents were obviously fully supportive. My dad going to me going to the school my dad attended. So.
So like I said earlier, it was a lot about, in-state tuition, and I also wanted to be very close to home, and so I decided on Maryland. But for you, if you're deciding, I would say you have to just kind of be honest with yourself. If you get distracted easily, like my younger sister does, she needed a smaller campus for herself. For me, I just like larger campuses. I want to meet a lot of people, so that's the kind of factor that I was looking at.
Your personality and preferences really kind of help you prioritize what kind of colleges you want to go to. Some colleges are much more focused on sports and extracurricular things, or leadership and stuff like that, or any other outside factors that they take pride in. So I know Maryland, they have they focus on a lot of sports and academic stuff. For Mason, it's a much more heavier academic and business school though. So if you're looking forward towards one more interest than another, some colleges help you prioritize that as well.
Yeah, so I think the location of the university is also very important, because you want to know what kind of opportunities and organizations are in that area that you can intern for or volunteer at. So you should keep that in mind when you're choosing a location for your university.
One thing I forgot to add too is, I think college fairs, I think most schools these days, they bring in college fairs in March where you can do all of them at once. Even if they don't, they're general wide scale events that you can go to that colleges host. In the DC area, I know American University hosts a large college fair for high school students to attend in the DC area. So that's a really good chance to actually speak to admissions officers and learn more about the curriculums and opportunities there. What low-key was a factor for me that I would kind of ask behind the scenes each place I talked to was do you know anything about the men's club volleyball program there? Because every college has a women's program, right? So that was kind of a main thing I'd ask, because that's can be a make or break thing. Another thing I wanted to kind of know is what's the necessity of Greek life in all these colleges? Because your social life, and we can all agree, you make some of your best friends from college too. So you got to make sure wherever you're going, you're set up socially to be happy. Because if you're not, then those 4 years it's not going to be a good situation. So really learning about those details and kind of figuring out what you kind of want to major in ahead of time. Because what's kind of sneaky about all undergraduate schools is, when you read rankings and all and such, they can all be sort of holistically viewed and ranked how they are as a one-entire university. But when you want to look into specific programs that they have, for example, pre-med or business or engineering, anything of the like, some schools that are generally have higher acceptance rates and will have a sneaky program that is something you want to do, and it can be a top program in the nation. For example, Babson is a college for business that a lot of people haven't heard of in face value. But within the business world for recruiting, it's a highly regarded school for entrepreneurship. So if you're interested, which was something I was thinking about in startups, how to do that, venture capital, pitching to angel investors, things of the such, that was a school that had great admission rates, and people who had great stories, that's what they kind of value the most, right? And so people who are looking at business, you'll Google top business schools, right? You know, that won't necessarily fly right on the radar, but if you really dig research in the places you're interested in, you can really find hidden programs out there that are actually perfect for you. And it's really easy to go to the contact admissions office these days, especially with social media out there. They're all trying to get their names out there themselves. So it's kind of a two-way street in that way. So don't feel like all the time it's, you know, you have to do all the work. You'll meet great people at these schools who will want to teach you about the schools because they want the best and most fitting candidates or applicants to apply to universities. So yeah, and don't be afraid to go tour places too. I always kind of had UVA on like the top of my list for one of the in-state schools, and when I visited there, I realized, no, this is going to be a 2.0 at my very white, perfect high school, and I don't want to do that again for another 4 years. Only when I went to William & Mary, I didn't feel that vibe at all. So sometimes it really takes visiting a place to get that tangible experience, and yeah, don't be afraid to take a long road trip with mom and dad. They'll be willing to drive you everywhere, for sure.
To also go off of that too, deciding on what you want to major in will help you choose your colleges as well. But if you have another interest or something like that, like a hunch that you might want to do, look into schools that have that too with your main major. Because I went to George Mason looking for an engineering major, then I switched it to history, but then I ended up doing physical education. And I looked into George Mason though, and they have a great physical education program there too, where you have your student teaching as your last semester, where you actually teach at the school, and then sometimes you get a job right away after that.
Okay, we have about 10 minutes left, right? So we'll open up the floor to questions. Students, parents. Tom Fong, please.
The previous speaker, what's her name?
I think it's Alicia.
Alicia. She talked about fire and water and becoming lava. Can each of you kind of look back at your early career or young adults, how that blend of water and fire, lava, helped you get through or around big challenge?
Alina, you want to start?
Okay.
Okay. I'll jump on this one first. I actually thought that was a really interesting part of your presentation when you put the lava, because I just did not see that coming. Because when you were asking when you combine fire and water, I was like, that literally becomes nothing. That was great. So yeah, becoming like lava, I think that is really important. I think, yeah, two of my darkest times was when that week I was waiting for my regular decisions to come back, and when you're interviewing for jobs full-time out of college. That's just so stressful because you get so many no's all the time, right? And it's hard to try and act like a fire guy. I stood up during the fire section earlier when you keep getting no's. It's hard to go on acting confident, hard to go into the next one thinking, I'm the man, like, I'm gonna do this, you guys want me, I don't know if I want you yet. Like, you can't have that mentality, no one's saying no to you, right? If you're getting rejection letters from schools, you kept envisioning yourself too, and talking to people who already got in there and being like, oh, let me know if you make it in, and like, getting so hopeful and excited. So, yeah, I got really down. Those were like not easy times, but at the end of the day, you can't compare yourself to other people, right? What really stresses you out the fact during those times of no's is that you know of other people in your situation who already gotten yeses. You gotta box that out and just think about yourself and know that like everyone who succeeded before you, whether it be like professional athletes that we like look up to, like they have so many struggle stories. So not to digress too much into that realm, but for me it was just making sure that like I trusted all the hard work I put into it, and don't be impatient. Just know that with the hard work or working hard, you'll persevere as long as you don't give up. So expect no's, because the yes will eventually come.
So going off comparing people, there are a lot of people at College Park that were in the field of either dentistry or just medicine, and I was constantly comparing myself to them. I didn't have as high a GPA as them. They were already studying for their MCAT and their DATs well before I was, and so in terms of fire, I never gave up the dream of going to dental school, even though I felt very behind comparing myself to other people. And then in terms of water, I just kind of had to reflect on myself to see the most efficient way that I needed to work in order to get into dental school. Okay, so I didn't have the highest GPA. What can I focus on now? The DAT, which is a standardized testing. I didn't hear about this like health packet that a lot of other applicants had. And so instead of focusing my time and trying to last minute, answer these questions and try to get this recommendation from this office, I decided to dedicate my time to studying DAT. I had to give up certain activities to do so, but in that sense, I kind of avoided those obstacles by, figuring out what was best for me and how to efficiently study so that I could get into dental school. So just keep pushing, but then also kind of reflect on yourself to see what's going to be best for you. Don't constantly compare yourself to everyone else. Just do what's best for you.
For me, it was deciding what I wanted to do or major in. I wanted to teach. I knew that at least. I just didn't know what. So I ended up with between science, history, and physical education. But I followed with what I was more passionate about. A lot of people think physical education is an easy major, just you just go out and teach people how to play sports and stuff like that. But classes are actually pretty hard because you have to do class management, organization, and how to properly teach them. Because for George Mason, they say that a lot of physical educators, they're just educators, they're not really educators, they just roll out the ball, let kids play, instead of teaching them life skills of physical activity.
So, let's see. Well, I feel like I joined too many things when I was in college. Every single night after class, I would have a club to go to, an event to go to, and after a while, I had to reflect and remember what was important, which was my GPA. And so I ended up dropping a few of my clubs so I could focus on one or two that I was more passionate about and map out my classes so that I could get a higher GPA and know what classes I needed to take to graduate.
Thank you. More questions? Yes?
I'm Mary Tom. I'm president of the OCA Greater Washington, D.C. chapter, sister to Chinese Youth College, so I'm very pleased to be here. This is a wonderful program. You shared some very good information. I was a college grad recruiter for private sector, so what you all have shared is very important. It is the holistic student. It's not just the GPA I'm looking at. I'm looking at what do you do in your spare time. And so therefore you were an inspiration because indeed that's so important. But as college grad recruiters, I used to go to college campuses and interview with prospective students. And I'm looking for that polish, that fluidity in communication, and the way in which you express yourself. And so therefore, I say that if you come prepared, and that's important, coming prepared to an interview with a college grad recruiter is so key. I've got 15 to 20 minutes to assess if I'm going to take your resume and put it on top of the pile. So I would be impressed if, granted you got a great GPA, but what did you do in your spare time? Did you do anything for community service, for the homeless, for anything like that? Not just the clubs, but extending and reaching out to community to say, I will advocate for the community because that's an important part of my life. That shows leadership. So congratulations to all of you. Any of you that are considering opportunities, how do I balance that? And I think it's good. You can't go to every club, but you have to get that GPA. But you also have to balance out relevant experiences. Like if you want to be a dentist, did you work in a dental office? Did you, in PE, did you work in physical education programs for youth or whatever? Or whatever your vocation and interest is, you really need to zone in on something that's relevant to the field of interest that you have. So therefore, congratulations to you for finding that balance, because that's what I'm looking for when I look for college grads. And they're looking for a job at my company. I'm looking for leaders, and so therefore, you found the right balance. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Time for one more quick question. Is there any? Yes?
So how do you deal with stress?
Deal with stress?
Yeah.
From a work basis right now, my job's pretty stressful, but just every day in my free time when I go home, I play a lot of Fortnite with my friends. That's relieves a lot of stress, so just kind of find your thing. And it's good to do things with friends, so Fortnite definitely lets you do that for myself. And CYC 9-man volleyball.
Also, there's a lot of things that might help you release stress. Like for me, sometimes hiking helps me, but it's not easy for me to go out and hike every other weekend or every day or something like that if I'm stressed for a test. So finding other things that help you de-stress, like either listening to music or hanging out with friends as well, that's an easy way to stress.
yeah, similar ideas. You know, I went to the gym, did some Zumba, and right now I'm living currently with my 2 siblings, and so sometimes we'll just take some time, just hang out. Right now we're watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, the whole series again. So that's kind of like a nice way to relax, and also when you do decide to take that mental break, like just focus on that mental break. If I go to Zumba and it's an hour class, you know, I'm losing that hour, but it's important to me and it's for my mental health. And so when I go, I'm just focusing on Zumba. I'm not like, oh, okay, well, I want to do Zumba, but that's an hour of my time that I'm not studying. You know, just focus on that one break, and that'll actually ultimately help you.
So how I deal with stress? Well, if I'm stressed, I know that my other friends are probably stressed as well, so I will reach out to them and like, hey, hope you're doing well, and just like talk to them on the phone for an hour, or go out for lunch or something to take my mind off the things I'm stressed about.
Okay. All right, well, we'll take a quick 5-minute break before the next session. Just check out the booths at the back or head to the restroom if you need to, and buy raffle tickets. Thank you.